All right, hello everybody. Today I'm going to be just repotting this little Acer palmatum here into a just a larger training container, a nursery container. I'm going to be trying out a different soil that I'm experimenting a little bit with this year. This is a straight Acer palmatum, Japanese maple, and this thing was just a little tiny seedling last year. If I remember correctly, there's a stone in this pot that was put there to help spread the roots out on this tree. And really just the purpose today is going to be to get it out of the pot, take a look at the roots, maybe prune some roots. And obviously I think I have a lot of roots in that pot because they're shooting out of the bottom all over the place. And I just want to get it into a wider container. I'm going to be using a pretty deep nursery container, but I don't think I'm going to use the full depth. I'm just going to, use it for the width. So anyway, start by getting it out of this container. And there's some weeds growing in here. I don't actually know what type of plants these are, some kind of little tree or something. Maybe I'll throw those in a pot, see what happens. As usual, I'm going to pull the moss off and just save that. I can clean it, shred it, use it later on. Got a number of these seedlings all at the same time, and I treated them all in a little bit different ways, different types of pots, different types of soil, just to kind of play around and see what happens. This one looks like it's got a really nice root spread right there. I'm going to bare root this tree so I can really see all the roots, spread them out, prune any ones that I don't want away. This was planted in what I've been using for quite a while to develop trees in nursery containers, and that's just potting mix with additional aggregate in it, generally perlite. I've definitely used some other types of aggregate before in the past. I can tell there is some drainage gravel in the bottom of this pot, and I just knocked out that flat rock that I had put in the pot just to encourage the roots to grow out in a spreading pattern. This was a very young, small tree last year when I potted it for the first time. It was a bare root seedling. And I tried to use pretty flat rock, but you also want it to be quite a bit smaller than the container that you're putting it in. If it's too close to the size of the diameter of that container, it's going to prevent water from really making it. It's going to have like a shadow underneath it where the soil never really gets any moisture, and you'll never get any roots underneath there. roots of another weed there. Like I said, it seems to have worked quite well on this one. There's a nice radial pattern of roots right there near the soil, and there's not much. That's right about there, I think, is kind of where the base of the original taproot is, where I snipped it off. Alright, so I'm going to cut some of this real long root out of my way here. I don't want any of it. Even these main roots here, you can see where they hit the wall of the container and just started to grow straight down. I won't be super aggressive with those right off the bat, but so now that I know I've got that nice established root flare there, I don't need anything that's growing below that. So I'm going to be taking out the center of this as well. So now I'm just basically cutting more of the taproot away and the roots that were branching off of it. I think that's going to be pretty good. There's a few more that are kind of growing too straight down. They're never going to be part of the visible root base. I suppose I could take, there's another one here that I'll definitely take off. Now I'm just combing out any of the remaining roots there. I think now I've got that pretty much to the point where those are pretty much all roots that I'm going to want to keep. This one, there's some very small roots around it. Beneath it, there's actually two roots that are closer to the level of some of these other ones. So I may in the future end up removing that one. But for this year, I'm just going to leave it. If I decide I want it later, it'll be too late. So I think that's pretty good. This is a large container that I'm going to put it back into. I won't need the rock again because I've already established that root pattern, and that those roots are going to stay in that position forever now. Like I said, I am going to be potting this into this kind of experimental mix that I'm using. I know there's a lot of other people that have used similar mixes with, you know, success. So I'm not that worried about it. I don't think that this is as good as the, you know, the mix I would normally use. Actually, with a deciduous tree, if I was putting this into a bonsai container, I don't think that I would use this. I generally will use a mix that's 70 or 80% akadama at a minimum, and some pumice added into it, or akadama completely on its own. And I do just believe that that's going to give you the best possible result with a refined deciduous tree. This tree is a tree that's in training. It's in development. I really just need good drainage. Whew, still a little dusty. So I'm going to go ahead and use this mix for it, at least on this potting. Like I said, this is a large container here, and I'm not going to be using the entire thing. I'm just going to be using the bottom few inches of this pot. This isn't like some of the other trees that I have in development that I'm, you know, filling this pot completely up with nursery mix. I'm trying to use this pot more like a bonsai training container. I'm only going to be using the bottom few inches of the pot. Stop there and mix up a little bit more soil quick. I've got some more soil mixed up here, and I can finish filling up this pot. Stuff is very dry and dusty at the moment. And what this soil mix is equal parts pine bark, there's calcined clay particle in there, perlite, and granite chips. I think that that's going to be a pretty decent mix. I think it'll work really well for conifers, but I think that a deciduous tree like this maple is going to have no trouble at all growing in this soil. really only using this because of the price. I just want to experiment with some cheaper alternatives to traditional bonsai soil. And all the ingredients that I've used here, all the components, are not things that I came up with out of nowhere. They're all things that have been used in the past. And even in bonsai soil in America, I know granite chips were pretty widely used for a long time, but on a professional level or with really fine trees, you know, you want the best soil possible. Well, pumice is going to do the job of that granite much better. But at least in my area, there's no inexpensive sources of pumice available. So I think that's pretty good. You know, like I said, I'm only using maybe 4 inches of the bottom of this pot. So that's why I'm not using just nursery mix with some aggregate. I do want to experiment with this soil, see how well it works. And I also think that this tree has a developed enough root system that it, you know, that really needs to be started to be trained outward. You know, I don't want to end up with roots growing down. So if I put it in a deep container, I'm just going to continue to get roots that are growing down, because the usable, you know, amount of surface there is already developed to that point, you know, the size of that old container. So I want to, you know, get it to widen up even more. All right, so that's going to do it for this video, for the work on this tree for today. Hopefully this thing will continue to develop nicely. I'll probably pull this up out of this pot next year just to take a look at those roots and, you know, see how things are going, see if I think the soil is working out or not. And, you know, maybe it'll get a container change, who knows. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.